What are you hearing?
Yeah, we're not seeing the full ground invasion. We are seeing a smaller ground invasion. That is happening. There are Israeli troops in Gaza as we speak. They went in a couple of different times, and we heard from Netanyahu that the next phase of the war, the next phase of the war could mean that you see the buildup here. You see small groups going in. The big problem, as you know, Jake, is getting out, one, trying to get the hostages out, two, and then if they do decide to do a large ground invasion, then what? Do you try and take over Gaza and be the governance of Gaza? That is not something that Israel wants to do from all the contacts that I've had with people here.
And one thing that I think is interesting that probably people at home don't really understand or maybe even pay attention to is the degree to which Gaza and Hamas in Gaza and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza are constantly firing rockets into Israel, not just during wartime, but all the time.
Yeah.
Just not successfully because of the Iron Dome defense system, but 2 or 3 times a day, even here in Tel Aviv, and they're aiming at population centers, not military targets.
Yeah, I mean, it happens quite regularly. When you heard people coming from, for example, that music festival on the border with Gaza, they said, well, we thought it was just like the normal rockets that come over, not like something that it turned out to be. So it does happen quite often. Mostly you see it there in places like Sderot, very close to Gaza. You see it in Ashkelon. You see it in Ashdod. But what is unusual is that you are seeing it here every single day. Tel Aviv, it doesn't happen all the time. Now, since the war started, you are seeing it every single day. Just an hour and a half or so ago, we saw rockets intercepted here again, and you get it very, very, so it's why the population here is extremely worried. Tel Aviv looks nothing like it would normally look. It is usually filled with people. Everyone's on the beach, especially on a weekend, on a Sunday. You would see people everywhere. You're not seeing that because people are afraid and they have gone into their homes near their safe rooms, and that's just, it sort of looks like what COVID looked like when COVID first started.
Yeah. No, it doesn't look like Gaza City.
No, not even close.
It's not for lack of trying. Is my point.
Yeah, there are a lot of rockets that have been fired, and without the Iron Dome, we would see a very different scene, although you would never see anything quite like what is going on in Gaza because they do not have the air power. The Israeli military has just been hammering Gaza with airstrikes, and you're seeing this sort of humanitarian crisis build and build and build. But certainly, if there was no Iron Dome, you would see a heck of a lot more damage and a lot of people who will be injured or killed.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Sarah Seidner, thanks so much. Up next, it's a life or death situation on the ground in Israel and in Gaza, but in the U.S., some lawmakers seem to be just trying to score political points. That's next.
I wish for the amazing new iPhone 15 Pro. Sean.
Do you mean this one, the one with titanium? Switch to Verizon and get iPhone 15 Pro on them.
Wow.
Get iPhone 15 Pro, Apple TV 4K, and 6 months of Apple One. All 3 on us. Only on Verizon.
This is Jabra Enhance Select. It's more than just a hearing aid. It's a smart hearing solution that makes hearing aids more convenient and less expensive. With Jabra Enhance Select's premium package, better hearing doesn't have to start in a doctor's office. It starts with our free online hearing test. You can fine-tune your settings with your remote audiology team. With Jabra Enhance Select, you can get the same advanced hearing aid technology and professional care you expect from a clinic at a fraction of the cost. Try it risk-free for 100 days. Visit JabraEnhance.com.
If your shipping manager left to find themselves, leaving you lost, you need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Indeed Instant Match instantly delivers quality candidates matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
Hi, I'm Sharon, and I was 52 pounds on Golo. I realized I needed to make a change when I looked in the mirror and did not recognize myself. I saw the Golo commercial, and I liked how they weren't actors. They just seemed like people that were just happy with themselves and had true results. Since being on Golo, I truly feel like I'm back to the best me I can be. Try Golo. It worked for me, and I'm real.
With the push of a button, Constant Contact's AI tools help you know what to say, even when you don't. Constant Contact, helping the small stand tall.
Struggling with the highs and lows of bipolar 1? Ask about Vraylar. Because you are greater than your bipolar 1. And you can help take control of your symptoms with Vraylar. Some medicines only treat the lows or highs. Vraylar treats depressive, acute manic, and mixed episodes of bipolar 1 in adults. proven full-spectrum relief for all bipolar 1 symptoms. And in VRAYLAR clinical studies, most saw no substantial impact on weight. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Call your doctor about unusual changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults. Report fever, stiff muscles or confusion, which may mean a life-threatening reaction, or uncontrollable muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, and high cholesterol may occur. Movement dysfunction and restlessness are common side effects. Sleepiness and stomach issues are also common. Side effects may not appear for several weeks. Ask about VRAYLAR and learn how AbbVie could help you save.
There are more ways than ever for identity thieves to steal your information. LifeLock alerts you and works to fix problems with a dedicated restoration specialist. Go to lifelock.com.
Skating for over 45 years has taken a toll on my body. I take Cunol turmeric because it helps with healthy joints and inflammation support. Cunol, the brand I trust. Introducing Cunol Joint Health with turmeric, type 2 collagen, and more.
Dude, dog food in the fridge?
It's not dog food. It's fresh fed. Real meat, real veggies.
Real weird.
He was bad luck anyway.
When you've tried everything.
I was getting chemical pills, bleaching cream.
This is melasma. I'm trying to get rid of it. I've tried everything.
Introducing Muesli Face RX. Prescription skincare delivered straight to your door. The spot cream is 10 times more potent than over-the-counter and prescription alternatives, so you'll finally see a difference.
My skin looks amazing.
It's amazing.
I'm a loyal customer forever.
See for yourself at muesli.com/TV.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Audiobook Network. Authors tell your story. Produce an audiobook with us.
Want to earn more profits and find a new audience for your published book? Produce an audiobook. We handle narration, production, and digital distribution.
800-753-8559.
The degree to which some folks only pretend to care about anti-Semitism when they can weaponize it never ceases to amaze. Allow me to tell you about a brand new House Republican resolution to censure Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib of Michigan, the first Palestinian-American woman in Congress. Now, accusations of anti-Israel and anti-Semitic statements from Tlaib are not exactly new, and I'm just talking about from her fellow House Democrats. Attention on Tlaib refocused after the explosion at the Baptist Hospital in Gaza a week and a half ago. The Hamas-run Palestinian Ministry of Health immediately blamed Israel for what they called a strike, while Israeli and eventually U.S. intelligence ultimately suggested it was more likely from a misfired Palestinian rocket. Despite all the new evidence, Tlaib waited more than a week to add a clarification to her tweet that others have raised doubts about the claim. She did leave her original tweet up. She got a lot of criticism from fellow Democrats, and you might be sitting there thinking, okay, I can see why that might bother, even outrage people. But are House Republicans really in a position to censure Tlaib? I mean, the leading Republican presidential nominee, Donald Trump, I mean, he dined with Holocaust deniers. Donald Trump posted a screed accusing liberal Jews of, quote, voting to destroy America and Israel last Rosh Hashanah, to nary a peep from any House Republican leaders. I mean, let's just take as an example, I don't know, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. I mean, Greene spoke at the white supremacist conference run by Holocaust denier, racist, anti-Semite Nick Fuentes, who participated in that hateful 2017 Charlottesville rally. Now, Greene later said she didn't know Fuentes' views, although they were pretty well known. This is the same Marjorie Taylor Greene who has pushed the great replacement theory in videos, the deranged notion that rich Jews are trying to replace white Americans and Westerners with blacks and brown Muslims. Not to mention, of course, her Jewish space laser conspiracy that a consortium, including, yes, wealthy Jews, were using lasers on satellites to start forest fires. Here in Israel, Greene has gotten some attention for belittling the Holocaust by tweeting, quote, "Joe Biden is Hitler," with the hashtag Nazi Joe has got to go, and for saying that then Speaker Nancy Pelosi's House floor mask mandate was an abuse, just like how Jews were, quote, put in trains and taken to gas chambers in Nazi Germany. Under fire, Green visited the Holocaust Museum and apologized. So, let me tell you something. You're never going to believe who the Republican offering this motion to censure Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib is. I want you to take a guess. Go ahead. Take a guess. That's right. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene. And it gets worse, because when you read Greene's resolution, you realize it is A, written by someone who seems to have learned about the Arab-Israeli conflict maybe 10 minutes before, who maybe didn't even have access to Wikipedia, and B, while there are plenty of valid criticisms of Congresswoman Tlaib, this resolution twists a bunch of things that she said beyond recognition. And C, the resolution seems much more focused on January 6th than it does on October 7th. Throughout its pages, Marjorie Taylor Greene describes this act of civil disobedience from a bunch of left-wing Jewish groups that are critical of Israel's government, this act as an insurrection. This is not an insurrection. It might be a bunch of folks with whom you disagree. It might be a bunch of people you think are misguided, acting in a way you don't like. But this is not an insurrection. Anti-Semitism is not a cudgel to be used against people for political points. Nor is Islamophobia or racism or anti-gay behavior or misogyny or any other kind of bigotry. Just over 3 weeks ago, 1,400 people, mostly Jews, mostly civilians, were slaughtered here in some of the cruelest and most unimaginable ways, in the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. This shit is not a game. Thank you for spending your Sunday morning with us. Fareed Zakaria GPS starts next.
Mornings. Cough? Congestion?
I'm feeling better. All in one and done with new Mucinex Kickstart.
Headache?
Better now.
Mucinex Kickstart gives all-in-one and done relief with a morning jolt of instant cooling sensation. It's comeback season.
Consumer Cellular, this is Sam. How may I help you? This is a butt dial. Well, somebody's butt. Just thought I'd let you know that with Consumer Cellular, you can get the same exact coverage as the leading carriers, but for up to half the price.
Now, ADT professionally installs Google Nest products.
Cool. You're all set.
So your home is safe and smart.
We're gonna miss you.
You can check in on your home,
Our assistant, we should go.
manage your system from virtually anywhere, and get intelligent alerts like when a package has arrived. When the most trusted name in home security adds the intelligence of Google, you have a home with no worries. Brought to you by ADT.
One whole story, one whole hour. World's best journalists dig deeper.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, tonight at 10 on CNN.
You want to see a trick?
Sure.
I can make anything you want appear on that TV.
Superheroes.
Superheroes.
Well, cute animals.
Cute animals.
Wizards.
Wizards. Would you like my trick?
I saw the remote.
With you, keeping the whole family entertained. Search endless content with the magical Ignite TV voice remote. Rogers, with you all the way.
HomeGlow just cleaned my entire house for $19. No, seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeGlow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change. I'm Jim Shudo in northern Israel, and this is CNN.
This is GPS, the global public square. Welcome to all of you in the United States and around the world. I'm Bianca Ladriga filling in for Fareed Zakaria today, and we are coming live from New York. Today on the program, I have an interview with Iran's foreign minister, who warned this week that if the attacks in Gaza continue, America will not be spared. I asked him where Iran's threat stands now, how close the Middle East may be to a much wider war, and what Iran's role was in Hamas's October 7th attack. And how are the Israeli people feeling as the country launches its second stage of war? I'll ask top Israeli anchor Yonit Levy. Then, for one brief shining moment, Sam Bankman-Fried was a crypto mega billionaire and the subject of a ton of buzz. But then it all collapsed. This week, he took the stand in his federal fraud trial. The great writer Michael Lewis was by Bankman's side to witness his rise and fall and tells Fareed the fascinating tale. Yesterday, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the war on Hamas his nation's second independence war and warned that it would be long. Meanwhile, the president of the International Committee of the Red Cross has called the humanitarian situation in Gaza a, quote, catastrophic failing that the world must not tolerate. CNN's Sarah Seidner joins me live now from Tel Aviv with the very latest. So, Sarah, what more are you learning about this expanded operation into Gaza?
Look, we heard from the Prime Minister, as you mentioned there, and he really tried to frame this as like an existential threat to the survival of Israel. And he said that the next phase of the war is happening. What you're seeing is not a huge ground invasion, but a small one. You are seeing that soldiers are in Gaza, Israeli soldiers in Gaza as we speak. We have also seen the volley of airstrikes that have been going on there in Gaza with devastating effect. We have also seen plenty of rockets that have come over. They come over daily, really. Tel Aviv is not used to getting this number of rockets, or rockets at all. It is more rare here than it is along the border in places like Ashkelon and Ashdod and Sderot. But now it has become a regular occurrence that rockets continue to fly over Tel Aviv here. The thing that Israel has, of course, is the Iron Dome that knocks those out. But we've been seeing just an enormous amount of firepower inside of Gaza, and on the perimeters there's tank fire. We are hearing from our reporters there as well that there is small arms fire that has been going off over the past 24 hours, and of course those airstrikes, which is causing certainly a devastation there in Gaza and a lot of death, including a lot of civilians, men, women, and children and babies. But here in Israel, there is also a big call by those who have hostages still in Gaza. They are demanding to have some answers, to know exactly whether or not this new phase of the war is going to put their loved ones there in danger. They met with the Prime Minister and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and really demanded that their hostages, that their family members be put as a priority, and they were promised that they were a priority to the Israeli government. But since then, we have seen so many strikes. There's just a lot of fear on the part of those with family members that are in Gaza in those tunnels that they just will not be able to make it out alive if this continues the way it does before a negotiation is able to get them out, Bianca.
Yeah, we just heard Jake Sullivan tell our Jake Tapper that the release of those hostages remains a top priority for U.S. officials as well. Sarah, let me ask you about the situation in Gaza specifically. Do we know if any additional humanitarian aid has been able to get in?
It's such a minuscule amount. I mean, normally you have somewhere near 100 trucks coming in each day, and that's on a regular day. That is on before any war is going on. They've only been able to get a few dozen trucks there over a week's time. And so you are really seeing this just enormous humanitarian catastrophe, not just from the munitions being used on Gaza by Israel, but also because of the blockade, also not being able to get in the aid. So there is not enough food, there is not enough water. It is really a situation where the civilians are suffering greatly and it gets worse by the day.
Yeah. And you've been covering it all for us for the past few weeks. Sarah Seidner, thank you. Well, on Thursday night, U.S. officials announced that American F-16s had struck weapons and ammunition storage areas in Syria. These facilities, the government said, were used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and affiliated groups. Now, the strikes were a response to a series of attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria from Iran's proxies since the war began. Earlier that day, Iran's foreign minister, Hossein Amir Abdullahian, seemed to threaten the U.S. in a speech at the UN, saying that America, quote, wouldn't be spared from the fire if the war in Gaza continued. I sat down with him on Thursday afternoon to ask him about that threat, but I began the interview with what began this war in the first place, the October 7th Hamas attack. Mr. Foreign Minister, thank you for taking the time. Let me start by asking you, did Iran play any role, direct or indirect, in the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel?
What happened on 7th of October in the occupied territories of Palestine? It was a decision that was made by the Palestinians alone. And since the country was occupied, they thought that it was a natural right to defend their own territories, to carry out the operation. That was a totally Palestinian operation and decision.
Well, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal say their sources from both Hamas and the IRGC tell them that Iran was directly connected to the attack.
I think this is totally baseless claim and allegation. Naturally, we do support Palestine. We have always had political, media, and international support for Palestine. We have never denied this. This is the truth. But in relation to this operation called the Al-Aqsa Storm, and there was no connection between Iran and this Hamas operation, not my government, no part of my country. You know what they did? Considering the international law, they did it in defending the occupied territories, and they want to retake their territories and to liberate Palestine from occupation and to free it. We believe that according to the international law, they did it in defending themselves.
Mr. Foreign Minister, you know what happened in that attack. Babies, the elderly, women, children were murdered. They were tortured. That was part of the mission. How can you justify that as being legal under international law? No one else has.
First of all, from the 8th of October up to now, in an vengeful operation, the Israeli regime is continuously, day and night, targeting non-military areas, both in Gaza and the West Bank, bombarding them, even using phosphorus bombs several times. More than 7,000 women, children, and civilians have been killed.
I do want to go back to the brutality in this attack perpetrated by Hamas because it horrified the world. And yet your office, the day after, said this, quote, "The resistance has so far achieved brilliant victories during this operation, and this is a bright spot in the history of the Palestinian people's struggle against the Zionists." You yourself called the attack a historic victory. How on earth can you call the butchering of innocent civilians a bright spot?
Let me ask you a question. Has Israel occupied Palestine or the other way around? The Palestinians occupying Israel? Which one is the occupied? In response to occupation, 75 years of humiliation.
But you know Israel has not been in Gaza for many years. Hamas has controlled Gaza.
In a large number of territories belonging to Palestinians, Israel has been there for years. They're demolishing their houses of the Palestinians, and they are expanding upon their settlements. They have killed thousands of Palestinians, made them homeless. This is continuous genocide, and the crime is going on. What happened was a natural response to about 75 years of crimes, genocide, and occupation.
We could go back and talk about 75 years, but I'm talking to you specifically about this attack which precipitated the war that we have now seen.
I'm asking you specifically, what for the prevalent and extensive attacks against Gaza and killing 7,000 women and children, why are you not seeing both sides, the occupying side? Yes, we don't approve of the killing of the civilians.
So you condemn it?
I have met with the leader of Hamas in Qatar. I asked him. He explained to me why they did what they did. He said that we wanted to retake our occupied territories. He explained to me that in the past month, Netanyahu was involved in very radical and extremist actions again, and also desecrated the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and even disrespected the Christians, and also Jewish settlements in the West Bank. For 16 years, Gaza is a small area, is under total human blockade. When you treat a nation like this, they believe it is their right to defend their motherland. You see, I would like to emphasize, we are opposed to the killing of the civilians. The political leader of Hamas told me that we stand ready to battle the military Israelis for a long time, but the civilians should be left out.
Next on GPS, I asked the Iranian foreign minister about his perceived threat to the United States, where he said at the UN that America wouldn't be spared if the war continues. We'll be back in a moment.
Introducing Finish Ultimate, engineered for the toughest conditions. Dry burnt-on stains, old dishwashers, very hard water. New Finish Ultimate with CycleSync technology helps deliver the ultimate clean.
The Iranian foreign minister said, or will say, that the United States will not be spared if the war continues. Iran wants to go to war with the USA. That's the title for the song by Paul Beckman, Paul Rainbow Song, created October 29th, 2023. Iran wants to go to war with the USA. Iran wants to go to war with the USA. Iran wants to go to war with the USA. Iran says the USA will not be spared if this war continues. It wants to go to war with the USA. There you go. That's why I read into it. That's how I see what he's saying. War with Iran. War with the USA. War with Iran. War with the USA. Iran wants to go to war with the USA if this war continues. sorry, Iran. You'll be sorry, yes indeedy. You'll be sorry, Iran. You'll be sorry, yes indeedy. You'll be sorry, Iran. You ever went to war with the USA?